Hello and welcome to the Gradcracker webinar with Hymans Robertson. My name is Sophie, I'm a director at Gradcracker and I've been with the business for the last 13 years. I've been working with Hymans Robertson for the last 6 years and I'm really excited for you all to find out more about them today. I'm also joined by my co-director Jessica, who I'm sure many of you will recognise from previous webinars and the many university presentations she delivers. During today's webinar, our aim is to find out more about Hymans Robertson, their opportunities and what life is like working there. Starting with the lovely Kirsty, the Early Careers Recruitment Business Partner, we'll have an introduction to the business and their opportunities. The rest of the panels from Hymans will then talk to you about their educational background, their day-to-day roles, what life is like at Hymans and their future plans. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll discuss the recruitment process and give you some hints and tips on how to be successful in securing a role with Hymans Robertson, including some of the individual experiences of the graduates. We also have had some questions submitted by you, our students, so these have been incorporated as well. Okay, let's get started. So hi Kirsty, thank you very much for joining us. Could you tell everyone all about Hymans Robertson?
Hello, and thanks everyone for joining us today and also for having me and the team along to chat a little bit about ourselves. Hymans Robertson, so what can we say about Hymans? So we opened our doors just over 100 years ago in 1921. So we started off as a small actuarial firm and we were predominantly focused then on supporting local authority pension schemes up here in Glasgow, which is where I'm based. We're obviously a little bit different to that, so the business has moved on over the last 100 plus years. So we're now a team of just over 1,300 staff. We've got offices in Glasgow still, we've got an office in Edinburgh, London, and Birmingham as well. And what we do now is we work with some of the UK's largest pension schemes, insurers, and financial institutions. I thought for this that I'd maybe share a couple of fun facts about Hymans.
Yeah.
So fact number one, we are a B Corp, which is something that you don't often see within the financial and actuarial services market. Um, we also have a charities arm to the business, which makes us a little bit different. So we have an arm to the business that's called the Hymans Robertson Foundation. So every year we donate 2% of our profits to the Hymans Robertson Foundation, and they donate that across really brilliant charities within the UK, normally focused on things like social mobility and financial literacy. My last fun fact is that we are an independent partnership. So what that means is that we're owned by our members. So that's people who actually work within the firm at quite a senior level. And what that means is that the direction and advice that we give to our clients, and I guess the direction we decide to take for ourselves, is never really driven by external pressures or shareholders. But in short, to sum us up, we offer award-winning consulting and technology services across pensions, investments, insurance, and risk management.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Kirsty. And I love the fun facts. I love,
Yeah, I
all
love
that.
that.
The sort of thing, this is the sort of thing that you'll want to see when people start applying, though, isn't it? It's not
Yeah,
just about, what you do as a business. It's all these other parts, that form your values and the way that you run the business that are really important for students to be aware of when they start applying. So
yeah.
great to hear that straight away. So right now you are recruiting for your next intake of graduate and interns. So can you tell us about the roles that you have available right now on your Gradcracker Company Hub?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got quite a few roles available at the moment, and we do vary them. So more will come out throughout the year. Some of them will come down. So please do keep a wee eye on our Gradcracker Hub for any updates to that. But we've got a mixture of graduate and internship opportunities. So I guess starting with the grad opportunities, they're open to final year and penultimate year students and recent graduates. Sorry, that's rubbish. They're open to final year students and recent graduates. Normally they start, we recruit just now and they start the following August and September. So the intake that we're recruiting for now will start in kind of August, September time, 2026. All of those positions, all of our grad positions come with brilliant benefits and with study support for either the IFOA, which is the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, or the CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst qualification. And I'm sure our panel colleagues will be able to talk a little bit more about that soon. Summer internships, they are the ones that are open to penultimate year students. They're paid opportunities and they take place in July and August. So we're recruiting now for next summer, so for July and August next summer. In those
Mhm.
roles, you get a bit of a taster about what the work of a graduate within your specific team would do. So it's a fab way to earn as you learn and also to build your experience and network while you're at Hymans there. Three key things you probably get involved in there is doing client work. You get given a personal project, and you get to take part in our intern charity challenge, which is super exciting. So each of our offices kind of split up into office groups, and there's a bit of an inter-office intern competition to see who can raise the most money for charity. So linking in to our Hymans Robertson Foundation and our charities arm, we then do like a match donation. So whatever the interns fundraise for, we'll match that, and that again will go out to some really great deserving charities across the UK. So yeah,
That's
lots to get
incredible.
involved with.
Yes, you pack a lot into that
Yeah,
internship, don't you? Yeah.
we really do. We really
Yeah.
do.
I know some of the panel members have been on the internship as well, so hopefully we can hear a bit more detail as we go through. And kind of sticking with the internships, you really like to get your interns to rejoin you as graduates, don't you, Kirsty? So tell us a bit about how that process works.
Oh, that is a good question. So,
Mm,
I always say it's one of the best things about an internship is that you can come back and rejoin us as a graduate. So, if you do
mm,
well during your internship, we can offer you a ring fence place for that particular team the next again year, to come back as a graduate, which takes a bit of the stress out of your final year. It just means that
mm.
you're and it also lets you skip the queue of other applicants, which is always a plus, to see.
Yes.
In terms of like how you're assessed or what you'd be doing, so the key kind of three things we get you to do as an intern. So it's kind of client work and doing the job of a graduate over the summer. It's a personal project, so that's scored. So your business unit that you align to will give you a project to work on throughout the summer, and you'll have the opportunity to really become an expert in that project area, and you present that project back to myself and some of the stakeholders from your business unit at the end of your internship. So that's scored as well. And then the
Mhm,
final kind of chunk of that is we give you what's called an intern learning log. So every week
mm,
you do a little bit of self-reflection, and your people manager will feed into this as well in terms of what you've been learning, what went well, what could go better, what you're excited about, and you do a bit of a reflective kind of couple of paragraphs at the end of your internship to say whether you want to come back. And again, we scored that, and we score kind of your performance against those few weeks that you've been with us. So it's
mm,
quite an all-encompassing way to assess people, but it
mm,
really is kind of treated as like an 8-week working interview. But we give you
mm.
lots of hints and tips about what we're looking for, and we'll always be super clear about that at the start of your internship with you.
That's amazing. So, you really put a lot of time and effort and thought into the internships and the benefit they can bring back to the business. So, yeah, that's brilliant. And like you said, going back into your final year with a job role potentially
Yeah.
already secured is just brilliant and will take so much stress out.
Yeah.
Um, Brilliant. So, you've touched upon there about the different business areas. So, what areas are you recruiting into this year for your graduates and interns?
Oh, that is also a good question. So again, this will change throughout the year because we do tend to get a couple of additional opportunities that come up throughout the year. So I'll just chat through sort of the key areas we look for and
Mhm,
yeah, where you might be able to get involved. Before I do that, just to give you a bit of an update on some of the terminology I'm about to use, because one
mm.
thing about financial services is we love an acronym. So I just want to make sure everyone's following along. First term I just want to kind of cover is an actuary, because a lot of people on this call, I'm assuming, might have heard of what an actuary is, but some might not. But just for total clarity, actuaries are professionals that use math, stats, and financial theory to kind of assess risk and uncertainty. So
Mhm,
their work helps organisations like our own to make informed decisions about the future. So especially in areas like pensions, insurance, and investments.
mm,
The really oversimplified way I always say it is that they use maths and stats to try and figure out what's going to happen in the future. Now,
mm.
um, the guys on this call will probably be shaking their head and going, "Oh my God, you have not just simplified it down to that." And I'm sure they'll give you a much better overview of that in their sessions. Likewise, important just to give the distinction, I think, at this point between a DB and a DC pension, because we'll talk about that a lot throughout when we're talking about the opportunities we have. So a DB pension stands for a defined benefit pension. that's a bit of an old school pension. So that's like the pension that maybe your parents or grandparents might have had. So in that type of pension, you pay into it, your employer pays into it, and you're kind of guaranteed an amount to come out of that at the
Mm-hmm.
end when you come to retire. That places the risk on the employer, and it's the employer's kind of job to get you paid at that point. So as you can probably imagine, DB pensions aren't so popular anymore. We're kind of moving away from that within the UK. DC pensions stand for defined contribution pensions, and that's what you'll probably tend to have now if you've got like a part-time job or you've been on a paid placement. So you pay into it, your employer pays into it, and at the end of when you come to retire, don't quite know how much you're going to get out of that. It's dependent on how smart, I guess how smart decisions are made in terms of like where that money is invested during the term of your work. So the onus and the risk kind of sits with the individual, and the liability isn't really with the employer.
Mm-hmm.
So just important to kind of distinguish between those two as we come to chat through the different opportunities that we have available to us. So
Mm-hmm.
what do we have? We've got two, I guess, distinct career pathways that you'll notice on our Gradcracker hub. So starting with the kind of main one, or the slightly bigger one that we recruit for, and that's our actuarial consulting and analytics programs. So the grad or an intern on that program, you'd be part of a team where you'd be doing quite a lot of analysis work to help our clients make confident financial decisions. So if you join in one of our client teams, which is our actuarial private, our actuarial public, or our insurance and financial services team, you'll be working with clients doing actuarial work like we've kind of just sort of covered there at the moment. If you're not so interested in the client consulting, but you're still interested in like an actuarial career, you might want to do something a little bit different. And within that same strand, we've also got our insights and analytics team. So they work more so with the tech that powers those different teams there. So for example, if you imagine our client consultants, so people like Lucy are the ones that are out there speaking to industry, speaking to our clients, figuring out what they need. Our insights and analytics team will help with the build of the technology that powers that powers us to be able to do that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I guess, program one is that sort of actuarial consulting. Program two is our pensions governance and investment program. And in
Mm-hmm.
that program, you'll join either our investment DB team who deal with defined benefit pensions, or our DC team who deal with defined contribution pensions. So we've got two brilliant speakers there from both those
Yeah.
teams today. So if you join the investment DB team, you're going to be supporting consultants to deliver quite tailored investment advice to a really wide range of clients. So you'll be working on things like investment strategy, asset allocations, manager selections. So really helping clients to manage that long-term liabilities and meet their funding objectives to these employers.
Mm-hmm.
If you join on the DC side of things, you're going to be developing expertise in things like pension scheme design, provider platform assessments, and at retirement member comms solutions. So lots of different things there. So the skills we look for are quite similar at that stage, but actually how you then translate them into your role can be doing quite different things across the piece. But in all cases, you'll be given the opportunity to do your CFA or IFOA exams as well, and we'll provide a full support package. I
Yeah.
feel like I've rambled on a bit on that one. There's so many ones to
No.
go through to say we've got this and this and this, but hopefully
Yeah.
that's helpful and giving a sense there.
No, absolutely. And I think it's really important. I know it's really important to you, Kirsty, that, students are aware of kind of these differences when they do apply, because they are different routes. They are going to be very different roles. So understanding that from the get-go, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, we have got three different team members from different teams across Hymans Robertson today that will be able to give us an insight into, day-to-day life as well. Um, so kind of moving on and kind of touching upon one of the things that you said about the types of people that you look for. So actually Hazel from Aston University has also asked this question about what type of students and what disciplines do you look for these roles?
Oh, that's a really good question to come in. So thank you, Hazel, for that. I think it's a big misconception that we're going to only be looking for people who come from a mathematical or an actuarial
Mm,
science background. That absolutely helps you hit the ground running, but we can teach a lot of that technical skill and expertise. So I think all of these roles, regardless of what one you kind of look at or what one you want to go into, they combine technical skills with communication and judgment. So you need to be able to do the sort of data analysis piece and I guess the tech piece, but you need to be quite good at communicating what you're doing. So for us, it suits people who enjoy kind of solving complex problems, who like working with data, but also who like engaging with people and building relationships. As I said, you
Mhm.
don't really need to come from a maths or a stats or a financial background. That can certainly help give you a bit of a head start in terms of some of the stuff you'll be doing. You'll already probably have a bit of an understanding, but we're very big on transferable skills and really giving you the
Mm.
tools to help you develop those transferable skills. So we absolutely recruit from all degree disciplines and love to get applications from all degree disciplines as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Kirsty. And I think that's a really, really important point to get out because I think, from an external point of view, you probably would have that misconception that it's just for those types of people. But obviously, I know from working with you for so many years, that's not the case. And your roles are open to all of those STEM disciplines. So brilliant. Okay, so final question for you, Kirsty, before we move on and meet everybody else. So, when graduates join you, they join you on a permanent contract from day one in a specific role. But underpinning that is a graduate development program, isn't there? That kind
Yeah.
of supports that first 18 months or so. Tell us a little bit more about that kind of support and program that is kind of underpinning everything.
Oh, good question. So it's relatively new that for Hymans. So Hymans, we are about lifelong learning. We've got a great learning and development team. We've got a great kind of on-demand piece of learning and development software called Aspire, where you can kind of
Mhm.
pick and choose what you want to do in the areas in which you want to develop in. In terms of like the more structured development program, like you mentioned, we've got the grad development program that we run. So that runs for about 18 months from when you start as a graduate. So you're kind of a year and a half in when that stops there. That's focused on a couple of things. So one, giving you a networking opportunity across the firm. So giving you the opportunity to meet the other grads within your cohort who might not be in your same business unit or team or location, but are starting their career at Hymans. And two, it's focused on kind of building your skills in terms of making you a great consultant. So the modules within that are all themed around kind of consultancy skills and professional development that aligns to those consultancy
Mm.
skills. Um, it's super useful. It seems to be getting some great feedback from our grads, and a lot of the grads that are here today will be
Mm.
on that course and working their way through it. But yeah, it really is testament to, lifelong learning is super important to us. Whatever level you come in at or join us at Hymans, we really are committed to your own professional and personal development, whether
Mm.
that's linear in terms of working up through the ranks of your team, or whether that's what we would call a zigzag career. So working in one area, zigzagging over to another and gaining exposure across the firm. So
Mm.
lots of variety there to get involved in.
Amazing. Thank you, Kirsty. And it's great to hear that you can, move around a little bit throughout your career as well. So thank you so much for that amazing introduction, giving us such kind of a comprehensive view of life at Hymans. We are going to be coming back to you towards the end of the webinar to talk about the recruitment process, but now we are going to go and meet the rest of the panel from Hymans Robertson. So we are joined by graduates Olivia, Lucy, and Gamu. And over to you, Jess.
Perfect. Thank you, Sophie. And thank you, Kirsty, like I said, for that really comprehensive introduction. It was great to find out more there. Olivia, I'm going to come to you if that's okay. So where did you go to university and what did you study?
So I went to University of York and I studied actuarial science, review and industry.
Fantastic. And what is your current role at Hymans
So
Robertson?
I'm working as a DC analyst. So there's a lot of acronyms like Kirsty mentioned. So that stands for Defined Contribution Analyst. And I'm based in the London office.
Fantastic. And how are you finding being in the London office? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's
Yeah.
actually like an hour commute from where I'm based. And yeah, it's just a beautiful office. So
Yeah. A little bit different from York.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, Gradcracker is also based in York. So we were just comparing notes, Olivia and I, before the session went live on places to go and the Christmas market that's coming. So yeah, thank you, Olivia, for that. We're going to find out about your role in a little bit more detail later on.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that introduction.
No worries.
Lucy, I'm going to come to you as well, if that's okay. Similar kind of questions. So where did you go to university and what did you study?
Yep, so I went to Newcastle University and I studied maths and stats.
Fab. Okay, so tell us what your current role is and where you're based.
So I'm an actuarial trainee. I'm currently in the private department.
Right.
So I work with private pension schemes.
Mhm.
And I'm currently based in the Edinburgh office.
Brilliant. Again, bit of a move for you then. You enjoy
Yeah,
the office, yeah?
yeah, I love
Like
Edinburgh.
it? Perfect. Yeah, it's very nice. It's Edinburgh. Gammy, I'm going to come to you next. Again, similar kind of questions. So I already know this answer, but I'm dying to find out why Hymans Robertson was an interest to you doing the degree discipline you've studied. But where did you go to university and what did you study?
Yeah, hi Jess. Thanks for that. So I went to King's College London.
Yep.
I studied biochemistry. So going back to Kirsty's point about there's no fixed degree that you need to kind of specialize in before applying for the grad program. So I did biochemistry, but I think a lot of the things involved with the course was more doing problem solving. Doing a lot of math and chemistry is quite demanding in terms of like solving problems and coming across maths. So even though it's not specific to like a maths degree or economics, like most people, so then it just aligned with what I did at uni.
Yeah. And I love that. A great example. And from Kirsty and Gammy yourself, this is what we say all the time. Keep an open mind. You never know where your degree can take you. And this is just a perfect example of the different directions that's open to you. So thank you so much for that. And sorry, where did you say you were based, Gammy?
I'm in the London office.
London office, that was it.
Based in the London
Fantastic.
office. And I'm in the
Okay.
investment DB team as well, which is the defined benefit. And Olivia is in the DC, which is defined contribution. Yeah, just to get those acronyms out.
So we've got a range of everything today.
Yeah,
So
we've got a bit of everything. So, Olivia, I'm going to come back to you. So, you joined Hymans Robertson this September.
Yep.
So, can you tell us about your role so far and what you've been doing in the first kind of couple of months?
Yeah, so I've been working as a DC analyst, which means I help analyze defined contributions or DC pension schemes. So like Kirsty mentioned at the beginning, so these are like pensions where you can build up a pot for retirement rather than receiving like a guaranteed income, like in defined benefits of DB pension schemes. So on a DB pension scheme, the employer like promises a set income for based on how many years you've worked at the company and your salary, and the employer bears that carries on that investment risk. Whereas in DC, you as a pension scheme member, you're contributing to the pension scheme and your employer is also contributing as well. And so you're essentially going to carry on that investment risk. But so my role as a DC analyst is like monitoring investment strategies of different DC pension schemes, ensuring that the governance rules are followed and supporting clients essentially so that their members can get like good value for money.
Yeah.
So I've been working on so far investment monitoring reports. So that stands for IMRs, we call that at Hymans. Also working on DCQs, which stands for Defined Contribution Quarterly Updates. So just giving clients a broader view of each quarter, what's happening in pensions industry in the DC pension industry. For example, any pensions bill, like the autumn budget that's going to be coming up soon, that will be mentioned in the next quarter, for example, and governance documents such as chair statements, which are done yearly, and also VFM assessments, which stands for value for money assessments. So making sure that the members get good value for money, essentially. So I work across like different client teams, and it's in different like DC. There's different types of DC schemes. There's corporate, there's trust, there's master trust. When I first joined Hymans, I was like, okay, what is this? But corporate essentially is run by individual companies for their employees. Then you have trust-based schemes, which is like overseen by a board of trustees, acting in the best interest for the pension scheme members, essentially. And then you have master trusts. So these are like large multi-employer pension schemes where smaller employers join one trust to just help with the governance and to help reduce costs. So it can be employers from the same sector or different sector as well. So far, like at Hymans, I've also been involved in the Hymans Graduate Development Program. So it's an 18-month program. So yesterday I actually had a session on the business writing skills on how to make sure you're able to communicate like complex information, so technical information, to a non-technical audience, and making sure you're able to just make it understandable for the clients. Put yourselves in the client's shoes, because they may not come from a pensions background or investment background. they could come from, I don't know, farming, for example. They don't know anything about
Yeah.
pension. So it's quite interesting just to see, you know, the impact that I have as a DC analyst helping schemes in the long run. So yeah, it's really interesting, just like building on communication, technical skills, professional skills as well. So I'm looking forward to completing the graduate development program and seeing what happens next. So.
Well, Olivia, you sound incredible with the things that you know already, the terminology that you're coming out and how you've explained it. You've absolutely nailed it. So well done. Obviously, that course yesterday worked, but yeah, the way you have come across just then and explaining it was fantastic. So well done, Olivia. And again, can't wait to find out a little bit more. But Lucy, I'm going to come to you next, if that's okay. So you are an actuarial trainee at Hymans. So tell us a bit about your role and the type of work you've been involved in so far.
I am, yeah. So basically my role essentially means that I just support our senior consultants and actuaries who work in the client teams that I'm involved with. And we deliver like bespoke advice to pension schemes and corporate clients that we're involved with. I'm also involved in the more technical work, so basically the calculations and the analysis that goes behind all of that advice. That's through our actuarial technical team. So right now I'm on a 50-50 split between client teams and technical teams. I work across like a really broad range of areas, including things like funding valuations, risk modeling, assumption setting. There's so much to get involved with. But in terms of like day-to-day work, I would say mainly it's consistent of things like data analysis, calculations, bringing up reports to be presenting at meetings to clients, and also studying. There's quite a bit of that. So I get involved in things like regular work, such as like accounting exercises, funding updates that check like the financial health of pension schemes, and also just day-to-day member calculations. Sometimes members ring up our admin and say, I want a valuation of my pension, and we do all that calculation. In terms of how I've felt like returning after the internship, I thought that doing the internship, it was a really smooth transition. Like it felt like I knew all of the teams and the systems. So I could like focus on actually developing my technical knowledge rather than getting to know people, getting to know the systems. I kind of had an understanding of like the firm's culture and expectations. So it was like I got to like hit the ground running. And it's also been really interesting to see how like my work's evolved from being an intern rather than like to now starting to take ownership of some parts of work, taking the lead on like managing pieces of work. So yeah, it's been really good.
And Lucy, I always like to ask this question when students have done a placement. How did you find the final year of study after doing your placement? Did you
It
find
was
it helped?
so helpful.
Yeah.
So helpful. All of my friends were so jealous that I had a job lined up.
Yeah.
It was something that I said to all of, I ran a netball club at uni, and it was something that I said to all of my little freshers. I said, you need to get an internship because it just takes the pressure off.
100%. Yeah, and again, that's why I like to ask it, because I know I know that you're going to say that, because again, it's just there's so many examples of, you know, being able to help you with your study, again, taking some of the pressure off, being able to apply what you've learned out in industry to your course and things like that. So it's just hugely beneficial for you as an individual, but as well as for you, Kirsty, it's a no-brainer to get these fantastic talent to come back and join you as a graduate. So it absolutely makes sense. So I'm assuming it was an easy yes when you got offered the graduate role.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's great. Perfect.
No hesitation there.
Yeah, no hesitation. And Gavin, I'm going to talk to you as well a little bit about your role in investment as an investment analyst. So tell us a little bit about that and what you've been involved in so far.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. So I'm in the investment DB team, which again, for the sake of the acronyms, that's basically your defined benefits. And this is when you receive a fixed pension. So your employer bears all the investment risk and is responsible for ensuring that the scheme is adequately funded. One of the key differences between the DB defined benefit and defined contribution is basically that DB is a bit higher in terms of cost. This is because usually triannually we need to do actuarial valuations just so that we can update the assumptions that we make when we're modeling stuff, which is what Lucy's quite heavily involved in doing. So in terms of my role as an investment analyst, I basically support our consultants in terms of going to meetings, so developing those papers such as the IMR, which is the Investment Monitoring Report. This is done on a quarterly basis, so I do this for a lot of private companies. Then we also have your LGPS, which is your local government pension schemes. I also do have some charity clients, so we do these monitoring reports. That's sort of what my day-to-day looks like. So that's a lot of work on Excel. Don't worry if you don't have a lot of experience with Excel. There's a lot of support that's offered to you. We even had, speaking on the 18 months training program, one of the sessions we had was on investment calculations. So you do get a lot of support from team members on that front. So that's a lot of the stuff that I do. And then we also have proposition teams. So you get your client teams assigned to you when you join. But then you also get exposure to different teams within Hymans. So we've got the data and reporting team. These are the people that are involved in doing a lot of like data analysis when the numbers come in from managers and we need to report on a quarterly basis. You can also get involved with the research team, which is looking at markets, what happened over the quarter, why did equities rise or fall, etc. And speaking on the autumn budget, they could be commenting about, okay, this has happened, is that as a result of that, etc. And then you can also get involved in the responsible investment team, which is your RI team, talking about ESG and more on the responsible investment side. So there's quite a lot to get involved in, and there's no pressure to say you're only stuck to one team. I've been in the transitions team. This is basically just moving money between funds. I've also been in the responsible investment team. So there's lots of stuff to get involved in.
And Gamu, is your role so far what you imagined it to be like? Again, coming from a different, not a maths background or an analytical background, is it what you expected it? And how are you being supported in terms of being, the training and development?
Yeah, I'll say there's maybe two sides to that because I did the internship prior. So I feel like that kind of eased me into it to kind of know what the expectation is, because with the internship, you just do the same thing that you do as a grad, it's just shorter space of time. And then to your question in terms of support, I always ask the question, before joining, like, is there anything I need to be doing? And I'd always
Good
get the
question,
same
Tom.
answer, just relax. When you come here, like, you're going to get all the support that you need. So I feel like the training programs have been really useful, and there's not been any way that I felt disadvantaged because I didn't study similar things that people studied. A good example of this is back to the 18 months development program, which is quite useful. We had kind of a mock trustee meeting presentation just to practice how you'd approach a real trustee meeting. And I found that quite useful because I managed to get a lot of feedback. So when I had my first trustee meeting about 3 months ago, it's easier to actually go into the meeting than present in front of people that know you. So I felt that was quite good. So there's plenty of support, and everyone here is just so friendly. You can always ask questions. Everyone's really willing to help. So that's one of the great things behind it.
And obviously one of the reasons why you came back after your placement.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. That's great. Okay, so next I want to talk a bit about the kind of, again, a bit around the training development, because you're all undertaking different routes to qualification. So we're going to touch upon what these routes are and how they look. So Lucy, I'm going to come to you on this one. So you are part of the IFOA, which is the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. Is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us a bit about this and what this actually looks like.
Yeah, so to actually qualify as an actuary, you have to sit exams with the IFOA. So my life at the minute at work looks a bit like a combination of exams, learning through actual pieces of work that are related to the exams that I'm sitting, and also professional development. So in terms of exams, there are quite a few to get through, but they're kind of split up in like stages of qualification, if you like. So you know exactly what kind of options you have in terms of at what point in your career you're at, what exams you should be taking. So there's ones that are like core principles, which cover the basics of actuarial statistics, actuarial maths, and also like business. And then you kind of move on to core practices, which is a way of assessing how you can apply like actuarial techniques in the real world. That includes things like modeling and communication skills. And then you move on to your specialist and specialist advanced principles, which like basically lets you hone in on what your practice does. So for us, it's pensions. And then once you've done all those, you're qualified. So
Easy.
And easy as that. What's that time frame then, realistically?
So most trainees will qualify as an associate within 3 or 5 years, which is something
Okay.
that's recognised in the industry if you're an associate. And then fellowship, which is kind of the final end goal, typically takes a little bit longer, maybe it's 1 to 2 years after. It also requires some experience just to make sure that you've kind of worked in the field. But yeah, it can be sped up if you've got exemptions from the exams. So for example, I had an exemption from one of the statistics exams. That's just because I study statistics at uni.
Okay, so you didn't have to sit the exam, they kind of already passed you.
Yeah, I've already got
Brilliant,
one.
that's good, isn't it?
One in the bag. You can get up to 6 exemptions, just depending on what your university degree is. You can even get more if you've sat some master's degrees. But yeah, I got the one, which I was pretty pleased with.
Yeah, well done you. It's amazing. And Gamma, I'm going to kind of bring you in here as well, because you mentioned it just before we went live. We're all talking what we're doing this weekend, what we're doing this weekend. And then you also mentioned that you're studying. So how are you juggling your everyday job, learning, being, taking on these projects, being responsible for your day-to-day tasks, as well as doing these exams, as well as everything else you've got to do?
I think the question is, how are you trying to juggle? But really, it's just more trying to strike a balance between your work deadlines. So what I normally do is just have a chat with my manager to say, okay, this is what we need to do this week. So in terms of studying, you actually get a study mentor.
Okay.
So you walk through with them kind of like your progress, which is quite good because it also helps you to be accountable, kind of your progress on how things are going and whether you need any support in terms of managing your deadlines, etc. So yeah, there's plenty of support. And you get study days as well, which works out to be, depends how many you want to take, but it's usually maybe 4 months before your exam, you can be taking 1 day off each week.
Right.
So there's plenty of support in terms of study. Yeah.
And Lucy, I don't mean to be negative Nelly, but what happens if you failed the exam?
So
I know, but what would happen?
You know what? These exams are really hard, and Hymans make it really clear that even if you do fail an exam, it's not seen as a failure on your part. It's totally normal, in fact, to fail some. And it's just about having that resilience built up. And something like the Hymans study package that we have as actuarial students, we get a study day a week as well. That's not just 4 months before, so we get that the full year. It just depends on what subjects you take, but also Hymans have like really good support systems in terms of paying for exams and giving like financial support, because the exams aren't cheap. Neither are the materials that you need to learn for the exams. So Hymans will pay for your first and last sit-in, so you essentially you get 2 goes at the exam for free. So there's not that kind of, oh my God, I now need to pay this much money and I'm already out of this exam and I put so much work in. No, it's honestly fine. No one judges anyone for failing. It's honestly seen as like acceptable.
Yeah, it's almost part of the process, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that, sorry to be negative, but I'm quite glad I asked that now. That's good to know. So Gamma, I'm going to come back to you, sorry, because your route is slightly different, isn't it? So you're doing the CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst route.
Exactly,
So tell us a little bit about that and why and how really that differs and what you did to learn with that.
Yeah, so with the CFA or Chartered Financial Analyst exam, there's 3 of those. So you do level 1, level 2, and level 3. You can't really proceed to the next level until you clear the one beforehand. So you just have to do them in order, basically. And then in terms of that exam structure, I don't think you can get an exemption. I think you just have to do all 3. And the requirement last time that I signed up was you just need to have a degree in any field, but I think it is a requirement that you have a degree. I don't know if it's the same for actual exams, but for CFA, you do need a degree to kind of do those exams. For each I can only really speak on level 1, but there's like 10 topics. So it's ranging around portfolio management, your quants, which is your maths. There's also accounting. It's a, like Lucy mentioned, it's a difficult exam. There's literally no judgment. There's so much to cover. I think historically the pass rate for level 1 is about 43%. So that should say
Is there?
or
Yeah.
fail than actually pass the exam. But you get plenty of support here at Hymans. And there's no pressure as well to do the exam. It's absolutely up to you.
And again, are you working to a similar time frame as well in terms of from when you actually become chartered, and then would you then become a fellow? And is that a roughly kind of 3 to 5
Yeah,
years longer?
so I think it just depends on everyone. I'm a little bit more dramatic. I'm just like, I want to get it done before I can settle down. As dramatic as it sounds, I told my boyfriend, you can't propose until I pass this exam.
Oh, that's a goal then.
So if you're assuming you pass at every first attempt, it will probably, and you don't take any breaks, maybe 3 years. But I think on average, a lot of people do maybe 4 or 5 years, that kind of time frame. But again, at Hymans, there's no pressure to say if you do this level 1, you have to move on to the next. It's up to you depending on life circumstances.
Yeah. No wonder why you're studying at the weekend then. Your partner's probably encouraging it as well. Yeah, no, we're not going on date night. We don't. You can study. Oh no, that's great. And again, it's such a nice, sorry, it's so nice to hear that Hymans gives you the support that you need. So yeah, again, great reflection, Kirsty, of you and the team. So well done there. And Olivia, I'm going to come to you. So what pathway are you taking, may I ask? And have you already started down a route?
So, because I studied actuarial science at university, I got a few exemptions. So I am going down the IFA route, so Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. So I've actually ordered like my study materials like a few months ago, well, last month or like end of September. So I have had a few study days here and there. I have one like every week. So I'll be sitting my exam soon. So
okay, brilliant. And I was going to ask this, Lucy, because you mentioned that when you say study materials, is that what is that?
Yeah, so we partner with different, I think it depends what office you're in, but we partner with different companies that kind of provide a comprehensive cover of all of the exams that you need to sit. So it's totally up to you. In your first couple of sittings, I think the study guides kind of they encourage you to buy everything, take as much as you want, and then from that point on you can kind of focus, oh well, actually I'd rather buy online notes and I'd rather buy the flashcards rather than the practice questions. Like I think that works for me. So it means that you can like really tailor it to what you want to do, but also one of the things that I think's one of the best things that's about studying is the tutorials that we can attend. So there's in-person tutorials. It kind of feels like a day of uni again. But it means that you get that like face-to-face with an expert in the field. You can ask whatever questions you want. You're not just sat reading the notes again and again and again thinking, but I just don't get it. You can go and ask as many questions as you want. They'll give you your email address. You can just pester them over email for whatever you need. It feels really supportive. So yeah, you can use your study days to go to those tutorials as well, and Hymans will pay for that.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy. And thank you, Olivia. But Olivia, I'm going to stick with you as well, if that's okay. So I want to know about the fun side of your job, if that's okay. If like this, maybe social events or anything else that you've been involved in that really maybe has resonated with you, maybe about the culture of the company and how it's been for you so far.
Well, so far it's actually been really fun. I'll start with the London office. Like we have a section near the kitchen with a pool table. There's Uno cards. There's like fun things to do in the office, really. I know for Gamu, her team, they have a bake-off every month.
Dear. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know why my team doesn't do that, but yeah, there's a bake-off once a month, and it is really nice and seeing everyone's getting involved. But yeah, for my team, we've got a Christmas dinner coming up.
Nice.
And that'll be a week after the London office Christmas party. So I'm actually looking forward to that. But I would definitely say Hymans is very sociable. So I'm looking forward to more events and seeing what happens. And I have been involved in like going to networking events by different providers. For example, there's like the Society for Pensions pensions professionals. So that was nice, just knowing how to network with different early career pension professionals as well. So yeah, very
Yeah.
exciting.
That's nice. So do you feel as though that transition from university to full-time work is been nice? You've got that, network of people.
I guess so, but also for me, because I did a placement year
Mm.
during my third year. So I did a whole 1 year working at a company. So I guess for me it was easier having that
that?
transition back into Hymans, I guess. I was working at the pension protection fund, so that was more in
Okay.
DB, so in the defined benefit. And so now I'm in defined contribution, so DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
I
like
bet
the
that
transition was
experience then
quite
it's helped now in the role that you're in massively.
yeah, I guess so in that sort of aspect. Yeah, definitely.
Mm. And would you say that you get to network with the other grads? When you joined, is there kind of that community?
Yes, definitely. Like sometimes I go for lunch with some of the grads, so it's pretty nice. And also the graduate development program is very helpful too, because you
Yeah.
see, if it's in person, you get to see the graduates in the London office. So it's nice. I see them there and about in the office. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Great. And Lucy, how is it like up in Edinburgh? Is it similar?
Yeah, definitely. We've
Yeah.
just had a new office put in Edinburgh, so I'm sat in the brand new
Oh,
office. Yeah,
nice.
it's lovely. There's been like a big focus from that just on like creating like a really welcoming, flexible environment for people to come in when they need.
Yeah.
But most of my team are in the office every day, and we kind of encourage graduates and interns to do the same. Like it just helps like kind of build a bit of a community,
Yeah.
and it makes like training easier as well. We kind of say to them like, this is for your benefit as well. But in terms of the office, we've got like dedicated quiet zones, like standing desks and like bookable little pods, like the one that I'm in right now. So it's really state of the art. It's lovely.
Yeah. It's a place
Like
that
you
you
said,
want to be.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's just lovely. In terms of like social side of things, so last night we had a FAS event, which is basically the Actuarial Student Society up in Edinburgh.
Good.
So we all just got to meet up with people like across the pensions industry in Edinburgh, have a chat about what it's like to kind of start out as a trainee. Sometimes it's nice to get that like
Yeah.
exposure to people from other companies as well. And then in terms of socials from the actual office, our social committee is like really brilliant at organising events. We've had Halloween movie nights in cinemas. We've had like boat parties across the Firth of Forth.
Nice.
In terms of our team, we like to get the grads in, like involved with organising our like team socials. So a couple of weeks ago, we went curling for a team away day. It was really fun. Like it was a bit different. Yeah. But yeah, it's really lovely. I'm part of the Helping Hands team in Edinburgh, which is the kind of part of that charity side of things. So I help organise volunteering opportunities for people within the Edinburgh office. It's a really nice like thing to see people like giving back, especially when it's like local charities that we're partnering with as well. So yeah, loads to
Perfect.
get
Sounds
involved with.
great. Yeah, it sounds lovely. And Gamma, have you got anything to add? Was you part of the Bake Off?
I was.
Oh, well done.
And the last one, it was my first time baking. So again, it just goes to show that, it's a good opportunity to get involved in something you've not done before. Didn't go well, but I tried.
At least you tried. At least you tried. It's all about, trying. No, I love it. Well done. Okay, so I'm going to hand back to you and Kirsty, because let's find out how we can get the job.
Thank you very much, Jess. And thank you so much, Olivia, Gamu, Lucy. I think it was so interesting there to hear your day-to-day roles, the route to qualification, what life is like outside of the day-to-day. I feel like we've got such a brilliant overview. So yeah, we need to find out from Kirsty now all about the recruitment process. So as we've mentioned, your roles are currently live on your hub on Gradcracker. The students will click on the Apply Now button. What happens next, Kirsty?
So that takes you through to the Hymans Robertson website. So it'll take you through to the specific vacancy that you've applied to. First stage in the process for all of our roles, and what I should say is all of our grad and our intern opportunities follow a really similar pattern in terms, or a really similar process. So first stage is an application form that will ask you a couple of kind of questions around about what you're studying, where you want to be based, what ones of our opportunities you're interested in. And then depending on the opportunity you've applied to, it'll ask you 3 questions. There's slight nuances in those questions, just depending on what one you've applied to. But predominantly it's kind of why Hymans, what research you've done into that particular career pathway or opportunity. And then the last question, if you're an intern, is about the skills that you might apply or that you might develop in your internship. And if you're a graduate, it's about the exams that we've chatted about. So I guess my key, if you take anything away from today, we have, like a lot of employers, we've seen a huge increase this year in terms of volume of applications. And a lot of this we can see pretty easily on it is coming from people using AI to kind of auto-generate answers. We do have an AI statement that's shared on Gradcracker, and we do have an AI statement that's shared on our website and in our application form. But what we would prefer if you did not use it to just auto-generate an answer. What we're looking for and what we're scoring you on at this stage of the process is your ability to kind of have a little bit of personal reflection and think about why this role is right for you. So AI is such a great tool to use for your research or maybe for helping refine some of your thinking. What it can't do is take that place of you and really put your personal thoughts and preferences and reflections into it. And that's what we really want to hear in these application forms. We want to see a little bit of your personality. We want to be able to see the specific research that you've done, how you've understood that, and we want to kind of get a sense of your enthusiasm for the role. So please be specific, share your research that you've done, and yeah, make it sound like you, because that's what we're looking for. After that, you're on to psychometric tests. So there's a numerical reasoning test and a job focused assessment, and that job focused assessment is pretty much just it's just a situational judgment test with a few additional questions round about your career motivations in there as well. So I'm sure we'll come on to talk about hints and tips for that, but we use a company called SHL to administer them for us. So do take a look into the SHL kind of brand of tests. There's plenty of practice tests in that available similar to that. And then your final stages are a telephone interview, which is with myself or another one of the recruitment team. That's like 20 minutes where we have a chat about your application in more detail. So we go kind of into what choices you've made, why you've made them, and just test your understanding of some of the stuff that you've applied to. And then final stage is a business unit interview. So interviewing with the specific team that you're aligned to. And in that interview, we'll ask you some questions round about why that team specifically. We'll ask you to do a short presentation task. So taking a piece of legislation or a terminology or something that links to the particular business unit you're aligned to, and explaining that really clearly in 5 minutes as if you're explaining it to a client tends to be what we do there. And then after that, it's competency and strengths-based questions. So again, I'm sure we'll be able to share some hints and tips on that for you. But again, that's sort of end-to-end what to expect. So a relatively short process, but a few different components in there to test you out.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Kirsty, for giving us such a good step-by-step through what the students can expect. And the other thing I just wanted to highlight as well is that Kirsty reads every single application that comes through to Hymans Robertson. You know, it's not some robot or some AI that is looking at the applications. It's a real human, and Kirsty spends a lot of time and effort going through them, which is why the use of AI is not the best thing to be doing at this point, because Kirsty will be able to spot that relatively easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. So we are going to hear some of the grads' experience of the recruitment process now, because you all have gone through these processes relatively recently. So sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. So Olivia, starting with you, how did you prepare for putting the kind of initial application together, and what sort of information did you include when you applied to Hymans?
Sure. So what I did first, I had to find out like what actually interests me in Hymans, like why Hymans? Why not other companies, for example? Why not the Big Four? And I was also thinking about like, because I love volunteering, because I did volunteering when I was younger, and also during my placement year when I was working at the Pension Protection Fund. So I went to go check Hymans' LinkedIn and Instagram just to see what sort of volunteering events have they done so far. And I also found out about their diversity and inclusion, the Hymans Robertson Foundation, and just finding things that really like resonate with me, not just for the sake of putting in an application, just finding out like what I actually love, what I like. And I also was thinking about like my university experiences, like any transferable skills. If I did any leadership experiences, communication, teamwork, etc. Like if you're, for example, if you're in a society right now, and let's say you're a treasurer or you're a social rep, you post on social media, what do you like doing? Like find out what you're actually doing and try and see if you can apply that to the application question, because that's very, very important. And when it comes to teamwork, I'll definitely say, even though you're working in a team, this is also helpful for your initial application and the final stage, I would say. Make sure you use I, avoid saying we, because you're meant to showcase your skills. This is your application, not your friend's application. This is you. So focus on you and basically show off what you have. You know, you're a smart person, show off what you have and use the STAR method as well. I would say more towards the final stage interview. So that STAR, if you guys don't know what that means, stands for situation, task, action, and result. And just think about, like, write it down of any experience you've done. Just I don't know, volunteering or any work experiences. If you don't have any work experiences, just volunteering, societies, charities, or if you're involved in if you do swimming, any sports, anything like that. And just be yourself, be authentic, because that's what Hymans wants to see. Don't use any AI, just be yourself throughout the whole application process. So that's what I'd say.
I love
Brilliant.
that.
Thank you, Olivia. And I know Jess was nodding along there. I know you talk about the STAR method and, you know, all those different things that you've mentioned about relating your skills to what Hymans are looking for, making sure your values align. You know, this is something that we are, you know, we really want to get the message through to the students, because within the job description, you know, you'll be told, you know, we want communication skills, we want team working skills. And there's so many things that every student, whether they have a part-time job, have done an industrial placement, have been part of a sports team, they will have so many of these skills, but it's knowing how to relate those back, isn't it, Olivia? And you've just given a really, really great example of that. So thank you so much. So kind of moving on to the next stage, Lucy, of psychometric and numerical reasoning tests, which I know often fill students with dread. So tell us a little bit about what advice you would give to our audience when they are preparing for these types of tests.
Yeah, so I think in terms of like the numerical reasoning ones, at least, they kind of like put a bit of fear in people. But it's kind of important to realize that they're not traditional maths exams. They're not going to be like what you did at A level or uni. They're there to measure like how well you can interpret and analyze like numerical data in a work setting. So you'll probably be more working with things like tables, graphs, and like charts, which is like what we're going to be putting forward to clients. And it's done under time pressure, which I think is probably the hardest part of it. I guess the only advice that I can give for that is just to stay calm, be strategic with your answers. If you're stuck, don't be afraid to move on. That's what we kind of expect at work anyways. And also practice is just key. Like what Kirsty said about that SHL platform, go and have a look at what the exam or the test might look like in advance. Make sure that you take your time, and finally make sure that you're somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed. You can concentrate. You know, you've only got that, whatever it is, 20 minutes, say, to answer those questions. You want to do as best as you possibly can and put your best self forward.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lucy. I think that's really important, is you know, preparation is key for these. Knowing what you're going to be presented with, if you haven't ever done one of these types of tests before, is really, really important. And yeah, trying to stay calm and in a quiet environment is brilliant. So thank you, Lucy. So Gamu, coming to you now about to talk about the interview. So obviously you did that for the summer internship. Tell us a little bit more about what you were given in advance, if you had to prepare anything, how you felt. Just tell us a little bit of a flavour of that process.
Yeah, so I had the telephone interview, as Kirsty mentioned, and then I also had the final interview with someone who worked on the team. In terms of the telephone interview, I don't recall, sorry, it was quite a long time ago, so I might not recall some exact facts. But in terms of the telephone interview, I don't recall getting any information prior. But what I did is I think I spent a whole month. Obviously, you don't have to be that dramatic on the website. And as Olivia mentioned, I was trying to see what do they have there that aligns with me. I was quite interested in the volunteering that they did, and I also quite liked the podcast that they would produced. I think at the time it was with Ben Farmer, one of our partners. So I was looking at that sort of thing, and I would listen, because coming from a biochemistry background, I had no knowledge of what was going on. So I felt the podcast kind of gave some insights into the sort of work that they do at Hymans. So I really just spent time on the company values, and then I tried to see in terms of what they're looking for, does that align with what I've done at university? So the telephone interview was quite laid back, quite good chat actually. And I think in the interview, they kind of gave some tips about, when you go for the final interview, you might want to put a bit more emphasis on the culture, because I think a lot of the emphasis was on the culture, which is really good to see, because I think even after joining, you can really see that people are being genuine. I remember one time I was on a call with my sister. I just come back as a grad, and I was like, everyone's so friendly, and she was like, they're not listening on this conversation. You can say this. This is generally how everyone is, and I like that really much, because it rubs on you as well. And even when the new grads come in, you kind of just radiate that positivity. So that was really what it was about. And then the final interview was similar. Again, they make you feel really comfortable. The person interviewing me, it was very lighthearted, and I felt like, I could be myself. It sounds a bit cliche, but they just gave that space for me to feel comfortable to go through that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gabby. And I think that's it, isn't it? The interviews aren't there to trip you up. They are to get to know you. They are for you to get to know the company as well. And, they don't want you to be super nervous coming in. They want to get to know the real you. So, yeah, I think that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So, Kirsty, final question to you, which also has actually been asked from Jamal from the Loughborough University. What do you look for in an applicant, and what advice would you give to everybody watching this webinar?
Oh, really good question. I think what we look for more than anything, so a lot of the technical skills that we've kind of chatted about today, they can all absolutely be trained, and we will absolutely help you to do so. For us, it's attitude and enthusiasm. We want to see people who are genuinely engaged and want to genuinely work with Hymans, but who also see this as a potential, even if not with Hymans, just the actuarial or investment or DC governance pathway as something that will stick with them, and that they are kind of I guess committed to. So yeah, it's that longevity of career and that understanding of kind of what you're signing up for and what you're looking at there. In terms of, I guess, top tip or piece of advice from me, it would really just echo what everyone else has already said today. Just be yourself in your application form, I think is that first step, and really do your research into Hymans. We want to see people who are engaged and knowledgeable about the firm, but who also understand the career pathway, the exam pathways that they are aligning themselves to. So really do show your enthusiasm for that would probably be my top tip in that case.
Fantastic. And this webinar has just given them all of that information in one handy little place, which is great. So thank you so much, everybody. It has been brilliant getting a real insight into Hymans today, and it's been lovely hearing all of your stories and talking to you all. So the recording of this webinar will be available for you to watch in full tomorrow on the Hymans Robertson Gradcracker Company Hub. And then we'll also break this up into kind of bite-sized highlights covering some of the really key topics that we just discussed today, of which there have been many. And remember that our employers absolutely love it that when you tell them that you've watched their webinar, as it means that you already have a really good understanding of the company, and it shows that you have a real interest in working for them. So make sure that you go and get your applications in for Hymans and let them know that you are here. On Monday, Jess and I will be back talking to software company Halo, so make sure you all get registering for that. But once again, thank you everyone for watching, and a big thanks to our lovely panel from Hymans Robertson today. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.